continuation of last Sunday night's lesson. And the quick rehash, Christians need to stand up in this evil world. But we need to stand up the correct way. We need to stand up in love. Last week we started in 1 Corinthians 13, and we're going to be back there, but I'm going to throw another one in today, a different verse to give us the same idea and to start from. So turn to Ephesians, the 4th chapter, and we'll be looking at verses 14 and 15. So that we may no longer be children, tossed to and fro by the waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness, in deceitful schemes. Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ. Last week we discussed that without love, all the things you do are wasted and useless. You're a clanging gong, a banging cymbal, just noise and bluster and fury. And today we're starting out with the idea that, yes, we need to speak the truth, but we need to do it in love. And sometimes that's hard to do. So I'm going to tell a story that I've told before, and I'll probably tell it again a couple times just because I happen to like it. Back in the Old West, you had circuit riding preachers. You didn't have a preacher in every town. A lot of times, you might not have one for months. And a lot of times, the services were held in the saloon, because that was the biggest place in town. And in this one town, there was a very angry, mean, nasty feller. He was well known for busting heads and shooting people. And the last time they had a circuit preacher in there, he said, next time one of them fellers tells me I'm going to hell, I'm going to shoot him right in the heart. Well, come Sunday, circuit rider, preacher from the church pulls up there. And he gets up there and he starts preaching up against fighting, killing, being drunk. And pretty soon, that big bully comes down to the front and wants to come to the Lord. And when it was over, after he was baptized, people came up to him, what happened? Why did you not shoot him? He said, because out of all the times people told me I was going to hell, he's the only one that sounded like it broke his heart that I was going. Speaking the truth in love works. But it's very hard to do. Now we'll turn back to 1 Corinthians 13. And we'll continue where we left off. We were somewhere around verse 5. And love, this agape love that puts other people first, does not insist on its own way. That's hard for us to do. We like things our own way. Have you ever seen the dance when two people come up to a door and it's a narrow door, and you back and forth because you're trying to let the other person go? That's the way Christians should be when there comes to be a decision to be made. Where there's two right ways to do something, it should be that dance. We should be trying not to insist on our own way, but trying to let the other person have it. That's even harder to do than speaking the truth in love. Because even though there may be two right ways, my way is always better. I mean, isn't that the way we think? But love doesn't insist on its own way. If things are always being done your way, you're probably doing something wrong. If you're loving, it shouldn't always be your way. It is not irritable or resentful. That's one of the hardest things about real love, because irritation comes from here. It comes from that little old part of the brain down there. The one that caused the fight or flight, it comes from down there. It doesn't come from up here. And it's a few milliseconds faster here to here than from here to here. So it's very hard. It's something you have to work on. Love comes from God, but we have to work at it. And if you're in a situation that you know is going to be irritating, then you need to put a muzzle on yourself, because the natural thing to do is to get irritable and to get resentful. Now this actually goes with the last one, where it says, does not always insist on its own way. Some people will say, hey, it's okay, do it your way. And they'll gripe and grouse about it for a month. And they'll just eat inside. That's not love. That's something we need to get out of ourselves. We need to be loving people. And that means changing ourselves into a model of Jesus, not into being ourselves. Because, if we really look at what love is, it is not normal and it is not natural. That is not what we naturally do. So we have to change our way of thinking into God's way of thinking and turn these into our normal behavior. But none of us were born doing these things. And here is one that fits with the story I told you, and I think it's very, very important. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Christians have lost a lot of influence in the world because we act like we're glad that sinners get theirs. We act like it's great. That's not the way to be. We need to rejoice in the truth, but we need to not rejoice in wrongdoing. It shouldn't make us happy. Not when we do it, not when anybody else does it. We need to be the kind of people that are looking for the truth, that are happy about good things. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Well, that's easy, right? You ever had anybody get on your last nerve? Love bears all things. Not everything till they get on your last nerve. It bears all things. Did you ever have somebody that they just messed up so often that they could tell you that the sky was blue and the floor is down and you wouldn't believe them? Love believes all things. Always believes that that person can change. It always believes that it can get better. Hopes all things. Well, we like that. We like hoping about everything. That's a good one. We'll put that one up there, right? You know, when you get your little silver shears out to cut the scriptures out and paste them together, we'll take that one. We like that one. But we don't like endures all things. If you're loving, you're going to put up with a lot. You're going to have to put up with things. If you're not putting up with things, if things are not the way really they shouldn't be sometimes, then you're not loving. When you're loving, you're going to have to endure those things. Because if you're loving, will people take advantage of you? Yeah, absolutely. And then you have to go back to love bears all things, believes all things, and hopes all things. You hope it's going to get better. And you'll endure all things. Now the next part here, I'm going to read a little bit of verse 8, just to give us the idea, because I'm going to come into something that I think is really important, but we're going to skip some of it because I don't want this to be a three or four-parter. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For what we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. Paul was telling them that all the things that they put so much stock in. If you read earlier there in Corinthians and read after this, they put a lot of stock in every one of these things. That was what was important to them. And he said, those are all going to pass away when the perfect comes. They're going to be gone. And the word perfect, as most of us know, is probably better translated in most places as complete. When that's what's complete comes, well, what are the parts? Knowledge, prophecies, being able to speak in tongues that other people didn't know so you could communicate with them. Well, when you put all those things together, put those parts together, what is the complete whole? When the scriptures came together. You didn't need any more prophecies because they were already there. You didn't need any more tongues because it's written down and you can translate that. Anybody. You don't have to have a Holy Spirit interpreter. You can get a normal interpreter. When that which is perfect has come, those would pass away. Now here's something I want I'm going to skip down to verse 13 because this is a very, very important thing. I think we've all heard this verse a million times, but I really think that most of the time we don't understand it. So now faith, hope, and love abide. These three, but the greatest of these is love. When that perfect comes, and the things that are going to pass away, pass away. It's not talking about heaven. It's talking about now. These three abide. Faith, hope, and love. We use that in a lot of marriage ceremonies. It's not what it's talking about. These three are left that you use with the perfect. Faith and hope and love. But the kicker is the greatest of these is love. I mean, we might say that faith is the greatest thing that was left with us. You know, because without faith, we can't be saved. But you can't be saved without love either. If you don't have love, you don't have faith. You have faith in the wrong things, the wrong ones. Love is greater. Love is greater than hope. Because if you have godly love, you have faith. Because you can't get that kind of love unless you get it from God. Unless you are a Christian with the Holy Spirit, you truly cannot love. We need more practice at learning how to do it and practicing it, but you can't even start unless you have the Holy Spirit. And you have no hope if you have no love. There is no hope. That's what Paul said when he said he would be like a gong, a noisy wait. It means nothing. No matter all the good things you do, no matter how much faith you have, no matter how wonderful of a preacher you are, no matter how much everybody loves you, if you don't have love, it's useless. Love is the key. You know, we often say, by their fruits, you'll know them. We say that. And I know people who are very, very, very insistent on dotting every I and crossing every T to make sure that they do every little thing in the Scriptures absolutely perfectly. The fruit that God is looking for is love. Those other things are important, but love is the greatest of these. It's the most important. When you get your little checklist out, put love back up at the top, because it's the most important. If anybody needs to answer the invitation in a public way, you can come now as we stand and as we sing.